Hey, folks. So I'm trying out a new microphone to see if I can get a better sound. So let me know if you can hear me. I'm looking at the dots on the microphone thing on the screen, and it looks like it's working. But I noticed on my other recording, I didn't like the sound of it. So if it's not loud, let me know, and I'll unplug it. But the internal microphone on the computer isn't very great, and it sounds really echoey. And when I put this on the podcast, it doesn't sound very good. So trying to see if one of these clip-on mics will do the trick. But welcome, folks. Welcome to the live chat today. We're doing a Q&A session on the 8-week program. And I also have a little bit of content as well to share about systems and strategies. I'm also going to talk about time management this week. So this week is another getting organized week, but with actual systems in place. And I think you're going to like my episode tomorrow about time management. I got a time management technique for you. So I think today I'm going through Q&As or questions that I get through the comments or questions that you guys have live. And if anyone's on the podcast listening, this isn't going to be a live recording itself, but you can always drop comments in the episode and I can add them to the next week's live recording. If you want to listen live, then you have to hop onto the YouTube link to listen live and participate. And you can drop any comments into the live stream and any questions, and I'll answer those as we go along. I need a little bit of water, sounds like. So it's very exciting. This is the big week. We've been gearing up for, been hyping it up all last week, and it's a nice sunny day. So it's very, very apropos to kind of have the weather on our side. But I think one thing to think about in this coming week is staying just one step ahead. Because I think a lot of this, you can kind of get the hang of adding new habits and adding new actions and working on goals. But the difficulty happens when you start to miss a step or you slide a little bit, and then the rest of life just kind of comes at you, and you kind of get behind the 8 ball, so to say. So keep in the back of your mind staying one step ahead. And I think that'll definitely help you. Hey, Ron, looks like you're here. And I do have your questions that you left in the comments. I kind of did some organization on those. So we'll hop into our first Q&A session. So, and it looks like it's Ron B248. Yeah, it's 2 Eastern time for Ron. And it's looks like his question was, what are the things am I supposed to be buying? What kind of food should I be getting at the grocery store to be working on this program? And I did want to put a disclaimer out there for folks. Just be clear that what all my advice and tips is not medical advice. I'm not going to be medically treating any particular disease state or providing any medical advice on medical conditions. So this is general healthy advice, assuming that everyone listening is in a healthy state, and this is general health advice. And of course, if you're following general health advice, a lot of times people notice that they end up with weight loss as a side effect because they're eating healthier than maybe what they're normally doing, or they notice that their blood pressure goes down because general healthy eating guidelines encourage a lot of fruit and vegetable consumption, which in and of itself can be a factor that helps reduce blood pressure. So all these healthy eating guidelines are great things to help see improvements in medical conditions, but we aren't actively managing a medical condition. I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer, even though that is something I am trained to do, and that's something I'm licensed to do, but only in the state of Colorado can I give you individual prescription advice on your medical conditions. And if you want to know more about that, you can send me a message. So Ron wants to know about groceries to buy and what's appropriate and what should we make for a list. So here's our first systems lesson. I like to divide grocery shopping into a way of thinking about systems. I've got the categories of foods, but I divide them into quick and into more preparation. So for proteins, I like to divide that up into proteins that you're going to use later and proteins that are immediately available. So such as if you're going shopping and you're buying maybe in bulk, or you're just trying to fill up your cart. So say chicken breast is on there, and that might be something you could buy frozen, or that could be something you buy fresh and then freeze it yourself. You might take out one to keep in the refrigerator, and so there's your ready-to-use portion. But with fresh meats, you want to make sure you're using them up within a couple of days. You don't want to keep that in the fridge without cooking it for a week, because then you'll start to see it spoil. So chicken breast can kind of go two ways. You can freeze a lot of it, or you can put some away in the fridge. Now let's go into some other categories. So frozen shrimp. So that's already in the frozen state. That's something that you could use later, but it's a quick protein. Once you throw that into a boiling pot of water, your shrimp is ready in 5 minutes. So you can put that on your list of quick proteins, even though it's freezer. So the shrimp is, and this is ready to. It can be ready to eat shrimp, or it can be the uncooked shrimp. But if it's frozen, it only takes about 5 minutes to boil it, and then it's ready to eat. So it's a lot faster of an option than, say, chicken, which takes maybe more like 20 to 30 minutes to cook, depending on how you're cooking it. So if you're looking for a really quick dinner meal, having something like an option like shrimp makes your dinner option a lot makes it a lot more feasible to get it done quickly. Another example of that's even just about as fast, these are proteins that you only have to really heat through. So think about something like chicken sausage. That might be something that you keep in the refrigerator, and it stays longer than just 7 days, because it has got more sodium, and it's more preserved. Say it's more preserved, so it doesn't spoil in 5 days. You can make it last 10 or 15 days in the refrigerator. But the benefit, so you don't have to worry about it spoiling right away. You can kind of save that for a later day when you need a quick dinner, because all you have to do is cut it up, heat it through, and then it's ready to go. So I don't know can you see what I'm saying here when I'm talking about protein options that take more preparation, and then protein options that are quick and healthy, and then protein options that that store really well. So things that you can freeze, or something like canned salmon that stores really well in the cupboard, and no preparation really needed. All you have to do is heat it through, or you can eat it cold, like say you were to put it on a salad. So there's no preparation that really goes into that, and it's ready to have. So you want to have a variety of these kind of proteins. That's what I'm getting at. So every food group, so we're mostly talking about meat proteins right now, but I'm going to move into vegetables and fruit. You want to have a variety to choose from, so that gives you options in every scenario. Do you have a lot of time to work with? Is it a weekend and you've got, maybe it's 4 o'clock and you've got time until dinner? Well, on those days, don't use up your chicken sausage recipe. Use a recipe where it takes a little bit more preparation, like chopped chicken breast, or as an example, yesterday I did beef. Wasn't a brisket. It was a steak, actually. But I didn't want to cook steak with it. I wanted to do something in the slow cooker. Actually, it was a pressure cooker. So it took more time, because the pressure cooker had to cook for an hour, but I had that time because it was Sunday. So that kind of, when you have more time in your day, utilize those days to use your more time-intensive recipes. So that's the systems that I'm getting at, is to work with work with the timing that you have, and make sure that you have ingredients and that are appropriate for each day and each scenario. Okay, so as an example of other things that you could have for lean proteins, we've got, so there's chicken breast, but I prefer chicken thighs. I think chicken thighs are more flavorful, and they are a little bit less dry, and I think they work well in a variety of different recipes. So I'll tend to buy the skinless chicken thighs, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And if there's extra skin or fat on them, but sometimes I can just trim it off. It's not that much of a difference between chicken breast and chicken thighs as far as health content. So if you think it tastes better, if you're more of a dark meat fan, you go ahead and get the chicken thighs. I think that's a great choice. So chicken thighs, I like to buy lean beef. So instead of getting T-bone steaks and ribeyes, I would get more of the really lean sirloin cuts. And that way you can either make a steak with it, or you can make a roast with it, or you can cut it up and do a stir fry with it. or there's a hundred other ways to do beef, but just getting a variety of proteins, and that will help you with having more options. So the beef, we talked about shrimp. You could do something like, here's another quick protein idea that's also in the freezer, something like turkey burgers or pre-made salmon burgers. Those are things that you can have on hand that when you don't feel like putting together, a chicken casserole type of dish, you can pull out these burger type things, and they're ready in 10 minutes because a lot of them are pre-cooked and you're just heating them through. So those are really great things to have on hand. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mentioned the canned salmon. There's also canned sardines and any other, like canned tuna. Those are really, really quick protein ideas that work in a pinch. It's like sometimes it's your plan C. I don't want to have canned salmon every day, and I don't make that recommendation, but it's a great plan C. So, and Brian really loves canned salmon. He'll just make a salad and put canned salmon on it, and it works for him. So, okay. Let's see what else. So yeah, a variety of meats. As far as fruits and vegetables go, the same concept. So I like to get like a frozen berries, because berries is one of those things that spoils the most quickly. So it's really tough, unless you're going to eat them. And I know we have some strawberries in the fridge that are probably not even that great right now because it's been 5 days and berries don't last very long. I prefer to get them frozen unless I know I'm eating them right away. And that way, with the frozen, you don't have to worry about them going bad. Fresh fruit, consider stuff that's portable and easily, I guess not easily damaged. So stuff that's like an orange or an apple, things that are kind of hardy, that they're not going to really spoil really quickly on your counter. So oranges last a long time, apples last a long time. Same thing with vegetables is for your frozen vegetables, get the stuff that you don't necessarily eat day in and day out. Broccoli, maybe green beans, stir fry mixes, those kind of things that they're already put together and easy. And then the stuff that you can buy and keep in your cupboard are the things that last longer, like potatoes, carrots, cabbage, things that don't really spoil. And then you don't have to really worry about them going bad. And until you kind of get more into a system of knowing how often you consume your fruits and veggies, then you can experiment more with maybe mushrooms. But it seems like every time I buy mushrooms, they always seem to go bad in the fridge unless I have a plan to use them in a big recipe. Lately, I just bought this container of mushrooms that were marinated, and it's great because they're not going bad. They can stay in the fridge, but I can then add them to a salad or a stir fry or something, and it's pretty good. Let's see what else. Let's see. Oh, quick use veggies. So the other part of the vegetables that if you're buying quick use veggies, you want to have a plan to eat those right away. So this is like your salad mixes. These go bad in a week. If you're buying a really large container, if there's any moisture in there, you're going to see that spoil pretty quickly. So you want to have a plan to use that up. Sometimes what I do, instead of buying the salad mix, is I'll just buy the baby spinach mix, because that gives me more options than just salad. You can make a spinach salad with it, but if it starts to go bad, you can use up all that spinach really quickly in a stir fry, in a marinara, in a soup, and then suddenly your problem of spoiling vegetables is gone because you're able to use that up. Also, consider canned vegetables for. I buy canned beans, and you can buy no salt added. I like to buy black beans, and this is a food, Brian doesn't really eat this food, so this is something I'll add for myself, and so I don't need to buy large quantities of it. But like black beans or kidney beans or chickpeas, they go great in a salad, or if I'm doing like some kind of maybe like a Mexican tortilla bowl. I won't use the tortilla, I'll just use beans instead, because I prefer beans, and I'll just make like a Mexican bowl, like some kind of stir fry or fajita bowl. And I'll just use a variety of beans as my carbohydrate. So you could do a variety of canned vegetables and if you're watching your salt, you can choose low sodium or lower sodium. And that way it gives you something that you can add to salads or you can add to soups as well. So I think there is an appropriate use for canned veggies, although I wouldn't try to have all of your vegetables canned unless you lived in Antarctica, right? Also consider pickled vegetables. So right now, pickled foods are really popular. You can get, pickled artichokes, pickled, I don't know. There's just so many there. If you go into the health food stores, they have the really fresh pickled veggies that have the good probiotics or the good bacteria in there. And that's like, traditional pickles, sauerkraut, pickled cauliflower, pickled carrots. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are great little sides, especially if you're having something like a burger or some kind of like a sandwich as your meal. And then you want a vegetable side, but it's like, well, what? I'm not going to steam broccoli to have with my burger. And then a pickled veggie is a perfect complement to that. So, and they can be just as nutritious, especially the traditionally fermented pickled. You're going to get more vitamin C and the good probiotics with that as well. So that's for veggies. And then for snacks, again, thinking of portable things, portion control, nuts come to mind, dried fruit comes to mind, but you do want to think about portion control because sometimes dried foods are more concentrated in their calories for the same amount visually, right? So you're looking at a quarter cup, but a quarter cup of dried fruit is 120 plus calories, whereas that's 2 apples is 120 calories. So keep that in mind as well if you're doing the dried fruit version. And then let's see, in snacks, I think that also comes down to why, where are you when you need a snack? If you're at home and you have your full kitchen available and you can take the time to mix together some yogurt and some fruit or cottage cheese, or if you're not doing dairy, you could do, hummus and veggie sticks or some kind of peanut butter and fruit, and doing those kind of combinations. I think you can do, if you've got the time to do that, I think it's worth it. And then if you're on the road or on the go and you feel like you want to have some kind of emergency food snack with you, then you can do things more like the nuts and the dried fruit or like a protein bar. Those aren't my first recommendations or my favorite recommendations for snacks, but I think those are good for those kind of situations. I had an appointment last week and I'm like, I don't have time I'm not going to bring a brown bag lunch with me, because I'm going to be away for 4 hours. So I'm just going to bring a little snack bar, and it's something I do once a month. So it's not something that I worry about, but I'm not going to have every single day be a protein bar snack or twice a day. I don't think that's as nutritious. And then also consider condiments and a variety of condiments to add variety, flavor, and excitement to your foods. So when you're doing your grocery shopping, it's worth thinking about little accents like barbecue sauce or hot sauce or different kinds of vinegars or Parmesan cheese. Sometimes people want to cut back a little bit on the cheese, especially if they're working on cholesterol or trying to cut back on their calories. And you can do a really lower calorie cheese like Parmesan, and it gives or feta cheese, and you can add a lot of flavor without a lot of ounces of cheese all at once. Nut butters, even jams and jellies and things like that. Just having a variety of flavors, I think, will keep things interesting for you. It's the same thing with using fruit. You could use canned fruit. Keep that on hand in case you want to use it in your cooking. Sometimes it's fun to add pineapple to a stir fry or add pineapple to some kind of salsa. So having canned pineapple is a great thing, whereas having a full pineapple, it's almost a lot of pressure to go ahead and eat that if you're, party of one or something. So yeah, I think that's kind of my general overall view as far as creating like a grocery shopping system for what to buy. I think having those options where you can have a quick option and then an option that doesn't, a quick option and an option that stores well. So having stuff in the freezer for later, and then having stuff in the cupboard for later, or a backup plan, but also having options for when you do have more time or when you're planning ahead, you can do those other protein options or vegetable options. So guys, I hope that was helpful for figuring out, having a guideline of what to buy. there's so many lists out there too, especially if you're doing different apps like MyFitnessPal or Lose It or Fitbit. They have a lot of suggestions on what types of groceries to buy. So that's definitely things that you could check out. I've seen lots of lists online of what should I buy, but it's hard to give you a list when everybody has different preferences and tastes. And I tell one person to buy cabbage and they hate cabbage, and then the next person hates cottage cheese, and it's kind of like an arbitrary thing. When it's something you really need to personalize. But any other questions, folks? I think we're going to kind of probably wrap this up pretty soon, and I definitely want to get to any more questions. You can definitely drop them in the chat if there's something pertinent today. Tomorrow's video, I'm going to go over a time management technique of how to tackle your tasks throughout the day using a different sort of time management technique. So you're welcome, Ron. Sounds like you're going to try the turkey burger again. I think it's a great option. And for me, I prefer to buy the turkey meat. It sounds like it's more work, but I don't think it's that much work at all. And then Costco sells a really like a 4-pack of ground turkey, and it's like $17 maybe for 10 pounds. I don't know. It's quite a bit. I think they're 2-pound packages. So it's about 8 pounds or more. And we make about 4 decent sized burgers per packet. And I just have to remember to take it out of the freezer. So if I'm thinking, okay, I'm running low on options, I'll go ahead and take one of those ground turkeys out of the freezer, defrost it in the fridge, and make turkey burgers with that. I think it's less salt if you're using the real ground turkey versus the pre-made burgers, but it's completely whatever is convenient for you. You could also make the burgers and then put them back in the freezer. So that's another option. And Ron's asking about prepared foods, wanting to journal, not sure what to put as calories. I think if you want to use an app is probably going to be the best way to get what calories are. I think Calorie King is just a standalone app where it's Calorie King, King, and you type in your food and then it tells you how many calories are in it. So it's pretty robust. I remember back 20 years ago recommending just the paper book for Calorie King. So Calorie King is pretty good. They have just a website as well if you don't want to use an app. But the app's pretty convenient because it's on your phone. So Calorie King is a really good one for just looking up nutrition. There's also nutritiondata.com. That's another place where you can look up the nutrition facts. And Christy asking, would you consider beans to be a protein or a carb? It is a high protein carb. Is that the cheater's way of answering? It's kind of both. It's in both categories. I count it as a carb. I count it as a healthy carb, even though it's a high fiber carb and it's a higher protein carb. So those are the benefits that you're getting with that carb. But technically, it behaves in the body like a carb food, and it does give you protein at the same time. If someone's vegetarian, they're counting their beans as both carbs and protein. So yeah, I know it's tough. Sometimes you're just going to have to do your best guessing, Ron. I know I see your question about the breaded pork chop. Like, how do you, if you're entering that in, how do you know what that counts as? So sometimes if you're looking up, pork chop on the list, sometimes it might say breaded. Sometimes it doesn't. It just sort of depends on your app. How robust it is and how detailed it is. So sometimes they won't really count breaded, but you might add in, maybe that's an additional ingredient. You add in 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs or something, or 1 tablespoon of breadcrumbs, or 1 teaspoon of oil. Maybe you're adding a little bit more. If you're just adding, say you put in plain pork chop plus tablespoon of breadcrumbs plus a teaspoon of oil, because that's probably what's going to go into the breadcrumbs. So some of it is guessing, but being absolutely precise on your calories isn't the most important part. It's the keeping up with it and staying really aware of what you're doing. That's going to give you the more of a benefit than missing 20 calories here or there because you missed the breading on the pork chop. So wouldn't worry about that as much as just the tracking in general. Vitamin D, let's see, vitamin D is necessary for everybody. So men and women. It's a vitamin that's hard to get in foods. It's mostly found in high fat foods like cheese, and it's usually the foods that your doctor's telling you to cut back on when you're trying to cut your cholesterol. So eggs and cheese and milk, whole milk. So usually people end up supplementing that with the vitamin D pill. It's very important for immune system health, so you don't want to skimp on it. It's very important for hormonal health. So if you're some people have hormonal imbalances, and vitamin D is one of those players in the hormonal balance all over our bodies, both men and women. So it's definitely an important one to have. When I do recommendations in general health for folks, I recommend vitamin D for everybody. I mean, it's one that I take as well. So yeah, good questions, folks. Good talk. And let's see, I'm trying to think what else is going on. Yeah, if you drop me any more questions in the comments. There'll be a comments popping up on this video and show after it posts. So feel free to drop more comments throughout the week, and I'll pick them up as we go along and put them into the next week's live chat. Oh, one question I did want to ask you folks is, do you prefer the daytime or would you prefer an evening live chat? I can give it a try next week and do a 6 p.m. I know Ron had mentioned that because on my other channel, I mentioned we do 6 p.m. live chats usually in the evening time. And so I just figured earlier in the day would be good to kind of get people going for the week, but I'm open to do a live chat if you feel like that's going to help you have the option of joining live and it's something that you're looking for. And I'll let you know before I post that next week. So I'll let you guys leave me some comments and some feedback on how you want to do next week's live chat, and I'll let you know in a couple of days when I get feedback what we'll do. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Hopefully it's some good info to kind of get you going, get you excited. And tomorrow we're going to talk about time management. And throughout the week, I've got a couple of food prep ideas I'm going to drop as well in future episodes. So take care, guys, and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye.